Little Patreon Nation special coming your way here. Trey Dare joined by Mike Irwin, still no Arkansas football coach. A lot of rumor, a lot of names out there. Mike, I wanted to dive into it with you. And quite frankly, a lot of the names that we're going to talk about probably not going to be the coach for that matter. It's just typically the way this thing works out. But whatever, let's have some fun. Let's talk about a lot of the names that are out there. Number one, Bobby Petrino. To me, this was the guy they wanted. I thought it was odd that press release had his name there at the bottom. I think that there was even an element of when he came back to be under Sam Pittman. Given Pittman's age, there was a vision of, hey, if this goes well, he could be our next guy. Tremendous at Louisville the first time around. Really bad in the NFL, but whatever. Tremendous at Arkansas. Won 21 games those last 2 years. Ryan Mallett, essentially a low-key Heisman contender. Tyler Wilson, pretty much the same. Niall Davis had some great times under him. But since he lost Lamar Jackson following the 2017 season, 20-29. That's a 2-8 season at Louisville. I believe that's a losing record at Missouri State. And that is now 0-6 here at Arkansas as the interim head coach, and he's 64 years old. What are your thoughts on Bobby Petrino? Is there any pathway for him being the head coach?
No, I just can't see it. I think they, for a while, maybe those first 3 or 4 games, they were looking at that. I think we even reached a point where you said, okay, you've got your 3 rivalry games left. You got your LSU, you got your Texas, you got Missouri. If he could close out with those games, that he had a lot of support among fans on the internet. I still read it all the time. And it's these people that remember when he was here before, and they think he can still do it. But it's just different now. He's not the same guy. He doesn't coach the way he did before. I promise you, some of the stuff he did to guys, to players back then, you can't do anymore. You definitely can't do it in the era of the transfer portal because they'll leave on you.
Yeah.
So I think he's done a good job of adjusting his own personality. He's been very, very supportive of these guys. He hasn't gotten as angry as I thought he might. Very complimentary. He got a little frustrated with the Texas game because I think there were some signs that a lot of them had let go of the rope where they hadn't before. But he's a very different guy, but he's just not the same guy.
Do you think those comments were in any ways like him washing his hands, like I know I'm out,
Yes.
guys, I got to call. I wouldn't do this after the Tennessee game, but I'm going to do it now. I'm not getting the job, and this isn't acceptable.
You know, you and I have talked about where does he go from here. I don't know, but I think he wants to.
How would Arkansas fans feel if they hired Bobby Petrino from this perspective? Doesn't it feel like if he's a head coach, it's only here? There's nowhere else where he could be a head coach.
Well, maybe. But, and again, a lot of them, especially if you don't end up with a name hire, you're going to get a lot of this. Well, why didn't we just hire him? He's as good as this guy or better. What are you doing here? He was already here. You know, he already knows these players. Blah, blah. They're going to say that, I promise you. But he's not getting the job.
Do you think they will get a name hire, or that seems unlikely?
My basic
and by name hire, I mean somebody that will sell tickets right away. That's what I mean by name.
My basic instinct tells me no. It's going to be a disappointment. I hope I'm wrong about that. And I don't mean a disappointment.
Yeah, Mike Elko was a disappointment at A&M.
Yes.
That's worked out great.
I don't mean a disappointment the way it actually ends up. You could get a no-name guy and he could be the best guy out there. I'm talking about the fans and how they react. And I think it's going to be one of these things where they're going, again, we hired that guy. Why didn't we hire Petrino?
That could be out there. The offshore betting accounts had him at around like plus 1,000. So that would be 10-1. You think it's an even longer shot than that?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I feel like he was given just about every opportunity to get the job. But you had to win. The progress wasn't there, but credit to Bobby. Really good attitude. Did seemingly keep the team together through all the losing. It wasn't like there was a quitting factor, any kind of mutiny. So credit to him. And I'm glad. I hope he got some satisfaction out of Full Circle and getting to close that chapter. Next name, a guy that both of us like. I know we've talked a lot. This little, peeling back the curtain here, some discussions inside the PTN studio. Eric Morris. He's at North Texas. It's his 3rd year there, I believe. It's either second. Doing really big things. And this is the quarterback whisperer. Apparently, he had a low-level hand in Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. He did big things with Cam Ward at Washington State. John Mateer, who appeared to be on track to win the Heisman this year at Oklahoma, He was at Washington State with Mestemaker as the offensive coordinator. And now Drew Mestemaker, we're constantly forgetting the kid's name, but didn't even play in high school. He was a backup. He's probably going to win the Burlsworth Trophy as the best walk-on in the country. I think last glance, he might have been leading the country in touchdowns. Eric Morris, where do you stand on him?
Well, I mean, I had somebody tell me last night, it doesn't matter what we want. We're media guys. We have to just objectively talk about these guys. But if you're asking me how I personally feel about him, I grew up west of Lubbock. I grew up a Texas Tech fan. I've got friends out there, including one really good buddy who asks questions on Ask Mike.
We all love Mike Leach, too. You're a college football fan, you like passing. We all love Mike Leach, guys.
I was sitting there on the couch talking to my good friend Eddie Lynn Lyon, who posts as Eddie Lynn, and we were watching the Arkansas-Texas game, the Texas Tech-Texas game, the year that Crabtree caught that touchdown pass and they beat Texas.
And they were number 2 in the country. Yeah.
Yes, and Morris was in that game as a wide receiver. So I'd like to ask him about that because we were sitting there and his TV, he has a TV where he's got 15 channels that he gets off an antenna, so he doesn't even have cable or anything.
Yeah.
So he's getting that stuff directly off. I'm behind. I'm through Cox Cable, and so he's 15 seconds ahead of me. I watch Crabtree catch this pass, and it looks like he's going to be knocked out of bounds at about the 6-yard line, but I hear him going bananas. I'm going, what's going on? And then I see this. So, I would like to ask him about that. This same guy, he and his brother used to go, Morton, my hometown, had some really good basketball. It was a 2A school, had some really good basketball teams in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So he and his brother would go to a lot of these games. And I still remember calling him one night, talking to him, and I go, how'd Morton do? And he goes, we went down to Shallow Water, and this Morris kid, little point guard, 5'8".
A lot of fire. What a competitor.
And he scored 40 points on us. And I'm going, oh, that's terrible, So then 2 years later, I'm talking to him, and he goes, that guy I told you about at he's a wide receiver.
Catching passes for Mike Leach.
Catching passes for Mike Leach. And Mike Leach calls him his little elf. And you know how Leach is. He says all this crazy stuff. And so people were calling him a midget. And Mike Leach goes, that's an incorrect term. Yeah. We do not accept the term midget. He is a mystical creature. He's an elf, but he's mystical. So we called him his little elf, and he was an overachiever there. Then he gets into coaching, like you say, he goes out and finds Patrick Mahomes on campus as a
nobody wanted Cam Ward at Incarnate Word.
Right.
Nobody recruited the kid.
That's right.
Now he's got a high school backup putting up numbers at UNT.
Yeah, and his current quarterback started the year this year as a 6 on the depth chart. He was a punter and a defensive guy in high school. And
sounds like who Arkansas needs.
Didn't play.
We're trying to put the guy over here.
And I'm telling you, I watch him Saturday night. I'm watching him. And I'm just telling you, this quarterback is like, he's got an arm like you wouldn't believe. He can drop back and throw that ball 50 yards in the air and drop a dime right into a receiver's hands, and he's got a wide receiver that can do that. And then they got so far ahead of Rice that he put his freshman quarterback in there. Now he's a runner, and he's going 40 yards every time he snaps the ball. So you're talking about a coach that just develops these players, and you're going, how does he find them? So yeah, I'd love to see this.
How does this complicate things? Let's just say that we're operating in hypothetical. This is what we're doing. We're just having some fun here. So North Texas is going to get into the playoff. How does that complicate things? Because to me, if you're a check, the committee, whatever, they've circled in, this is our guy. One playoff game should not affect, well, we can't hire him because he's in the playoff. It should be more of the ball's in your court. And also there's a little bit of smoke here because I don't know if you saw this. There's a very valid report that North Texas is trying to gather some resources to be like, hey, we'll get you more money. We'll get your staff more money. We know you're going to do big things, but can you give us one more year? Maybe you can get a better job than an Arkansas or an Oklahoma State or a whatever.
Yeah. I mean, that story's out there. Now, look, I've got a guy on Instant Messenger that started messaging me because Eric Morris's wife, Molly, is from Rector, Arkansas.
I don't even know where it's at, but I know it's Arkansas.
It's over by Arkansas State. It's in the northeast part of the state. And he supposedly has some cattle, some land that they run cattle on out there that he's bought as an investment. okay, the guy says, look, I know him, and so maybe he'll come here. And then he says, oh, I think they've interviewed him, and he's feeling really good about it. Now, then he tells me on Friday that the interview, I guess, from what, if he's accurate on this, Yurchek must have gone down to Houston on Friday because that's where they were. They were playing Rice. So it must have gone down to Houston. But he said that it was a face-to-face interview, and for some reason it didn't go well. And so he didn't think he was going to be the coach here. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if there's other people they're looking at. It might be that. It's hard to say.
It's
could be
rumor,
smoke.
yeah. Who knows?
Could be smoke.
Could be something. It's embellished.
If I'm Eric Morris, or if I'm Eric Morris and I want this job, I don't want it out there right now. I don't want it to affect my team. So you could cover that completely up and just act like, yeah, I'm not interested. So, you know, it's like anything else that's going on right now. You don't know where this stuff is headed.
Next name here, a guy that's gotten some love, not necessarily like it's a home run to happen or whatever. Ryan Silverfield at Memphis. The Tigers are not going to the playoff.
Right. He would be an easy hire because his season would be over. I don't think Razorback fans have warmed up to him very much. He beat us for one thing, and they don't like that. And they don't like Memphis. And they don't want anything to do with anything that has anything to do with Memphis. And if you look at these AAC coaches that they're looking at, I would say he's the least favorite among the fans.
Yeah, do you agree with this? There's an element here. So Memphis, programs like Memphis and Tulane, and I think USF too, I'll lump them in there. They have good resources for being a group of five school. But at Arkansas, sorry, fact, not opinion, the resources here are not as good as Alabama, as a Georgia, as a whatever. So it would almost be like this reverse sort of tactic where at Memphis, you have better players, better facilities, better resources in your opponents. But here, it's almost like, you're the little brother kind of school that has to do more with less. And to me, that is a guy, as we were just talking about, like Eric Morris.
Yeah, he is. He's just not as popular among the fans. I think he's the least popular of these coaches they talk about from the American Athletic Conference.
Don't you think he's one of the more likely candidates, though?
Maybe. It's hard to say. I haven't heard his name a lot, but logic would dictate because he beat Arkansas, then they were looking at him, and I think they probably looked at him longer than these other coaches. But he didn't have the season that some of these other guys did. Golesh has a better season. Morris had a better season. So, we'll see.
All right, next up here, Kane Wommack. I don't know if it's Wommack.
It's Wommack.
That's what I've been hearing, but some people are saying Wommack. It does look like Wommack. Defensive coordinator at Alabama. We were just talking about resources. I don't know if there's a program in the country that has more resources, more deep pockets, and less patience than Alabama. Previous head coaching experience at South Alabama. He's a Fayetteville guy. He's a Razorback. But right now, he's a coordinator. What is the likelihood? Where are the odds? Where do you put Wommack on
I
the
think
list?
it's pretty good because if they're talking about this being announced this week, he's a guy that could take the job this week. Now, here's the thing about him.
Yeah, but Alabama's in the playoff. So then you're kind of putting them in a little bit of a tight spot. You got to do you.
It can still be done. And I don't know what now DeBoer hired him, and they are really high on him. They're number 2 in the SEC in defense. So he's done his job, and he's been a head coach. He is a coordinator right now, but he was a head coach at South Alabama, and they had 3 seasons. He had one season where he won the West. I guess they have 2 divisions, and he's got a winning record overall. So he's got a track record as a head coach. But I know people that knew him when he was here. Now he was a walk-on. I don't even know if he lettered. But the people that knew him at Fayetteville High said this guy is intense, and they know about him as a coach, and they say that what he is as a coach is extremely demanding. He will not tolerate less than your maximum effort. The guy I was talking to said, you look at some of the problems we've had on defense, I promise you, if he gets this job, you won't see that kind of defense on the field for Arkansas. He will find guys, I don't care whether they're, 5 stars or 2 stars. I don't care if they're big portal guys that cost a lot of money or they don't cost you much at all. The guy that will play is the one that produces. And he said, you just don't get away with not giving effort. So, people I've talked to say they're very high on him. And then I was also told that if he took this job, he would basically start bringing walk-ons in the walk-ons in this state that you take.
The leftover scholarships.
These are
the leftover NIL
well,
spots.
up
whatever it
until
may be.
now, what you did is they were walk-ons.
85 scholarships. Roster limits are going to be set at 105.
Yeah, so you're going to be able to offer scholarships to guys beyond the 85 limit. So before you would have those guys in here just as walk-ons, and 2 or 3 of them might end up starting for you, might be a Broyles Award candidate, and then the rest would just be leaders in the locker room. Well, he would bring these guys in and put them on scholarships so they'd be even more motivated. And I do know that Hunter Yurachek has a goal of kind of getting this back toward, because Sam Pittman did not seem to value in-state guys. If he was recruiting an in-state running back that was the number 2 running back in Arkansas, but he was talking to a bunch of other schools, he'd just go, well, let's go down here and get this guy from, let's go to Mississippi and see if we can get one. He didn't.
He the transfer. He's 21 years old. That's what we want.
He didn't seem to value that. Yurachek's going, we need to do that. And I think it's a good idea.
Well, so he's from Northwest Arkansas, again, the Razorback connection. So people are naturally going to like that. Will the fan base be put off by the idea that right now he's a coordinator?
They will be put off by that, most of them. And they will be going, what are you doing? Why does Bobby Petrino not have this job? Are you kidding me? Bobby Petrino was here the last 2 years. He knows all these players, and you're going to bring this guy in here? Well, take a look at what he's doing defensively and look at what is happening here. If he comes in here, there's no question he's going to have to get a coordinator that can make the offense work, but his job is going to make sure this defense never looks like it looked this year ever again while he's here.
You take out those first 2 games against Alabama and Arkansas State, this is the worst defense in the country statistically, but those games did happen, so let's be fair. Next name here, Alex Golesh, kind of cooled off a little bit at USF, had the big win early against Florida. Florida turned out to be kind of not so hot, but doing pretty big things in the American Athletic Conference in South Florida.
Okay, I know somebody that says that they went to school
with the wife, who's from Greenwood, right?
No.
No, okay, sorry.
This is different. Went to school with 2 people who work inside the athletic department at South Florida. They were telling me early on, or this person was telling me early on, he really wants the Florida job. Now, the Florida job is still open. It hasn't been taken yet.
There's only one Lane Kiffin. We can't clone him and send him to Penn State and LSU and Florida.
So that would be Golesh's, that would be what he would want. And I was also told that there's a very good chance if he doesn't get the offer that he wants, he'll just stay there. They've put together a pretty good package. Of all of these coaches we're talking about out of the American Athletic Conference, he's got the most NIL money. He's got the most support behind him. And he was going to win this thing outright there for a while. He got beat. I think, of all people, by UAB, which was just total.
I believe it was Alex Mortensen,
Yes,
Chris Mortensen's son, who was the interim head coach.
So that was a total shock. But he's got a lot of support there, and so the word I got was that he would be perfectly fine staying there another year and just waiting to get a job.
And maybe getting a better job.
Get a job that he wants.
Would you agree with this? Sometimes it feels like coaches rush. Like they reach for the payday.
Absolutely.
And then it's like, you aren't in the right spot. It wasn't the right fit. It ends up being detrimental to your career.
How you manage your career as a head coach is everything. And I've known so many guys that would come back later on and say, I should have never taken that job. I should have never.
With the benefit of hindsight, absolutely.
Yes, I should have never done that. So maybe he's showing some good discipline.
What do you think's more important here, fit or resume? Because we've heard, Mike, this is the losingest program in the SEC since 2012. I don't mean to pour rain on anybody's parade. That is fact, not opinion. We've heard a lot of people talk about they're hiring people that they're not Arkansas guys. That doesn't mean they have to be from here, but they don't understand the culture. They don't really want to be here. They're just here for a payday. So Mike Irwin is Hunter Yurachek right now. You're the athletic director at Arkansas. You want fit or resume?
I think resume is still first, but with a heavy emphasis on fit. It can't just be resume. It's got to be, can you come in here and adapt to what we do? Because we don't want to adapt to you. We want you to come in here and see how Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to coach your players the way you want to coach them, but you need to come in here and be able to relate to our fans and understand what's important to our fans and do things based on how those fans will react. And that's not really all that difficult from what I've seen. Most coaches are smart enough to come in. Even in high school, I've seen that. You move to a new town, you're going to church with these people, your wife's down there on Saturday buying stuff in the store, and it doesn't take very long for you to figure out the people in your town.
Well, I don't know your thought on this. There may never be a better fit at Arkansas than Houston Nutt. From here, man, he generated excitement right away. There was instant turnaround. I think he was 8-0. But the resume, I think he was coming off a 4-7 season at Boise State. Not Boise State winning the Fiesta Bowl and going to the college ball playoff. 1AA Boise State, and now he's got the SEC job. But that was the case that, hey, maybe the guy that didn't have the best resume was the best guy for the job.
So here's what happened. John White, it was the chancellor, and he put together a committee. And it was a committee of ex-players. Bill Montgomery was on that committee. There were a lot of other ex-players on that committee. And they were looking at Tom Tuberville, and Frank wanted to.
It was at Ole Miss, I believe.
It was at Ole Miss, and Frank wanted to hire him. Tuberville accepted an offer and then came back and said, wait a minute, Ole Miss is offering me more. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Ole Miss hates to lose anybody to Arkansas.
James Franklin, insert name here.
So Frank blew him off because Frank didn't want to deal with that. He wasn't going to hire a coach that was going to sit there and do that to him. But what I'm telling you is when Houston came in and interviewed with that committee, he blew every one of those guys away. They went, he's one of us.
He's the guy.
He's one of us. We want him. And, of course, he comes in that first year. It's 98. And they have had a lot of problems during the Danny Ford years of losing to SMU. It got embarrassing. So they're going to play SMU right off the bat. In Little Rock, they beat the pants off of SMU.
I think they blew out Alabama that year too, didn't they? They blew out a lot of people.
I'll just say that first game, and everybody that I talked to said, hey, I don't care what happens the rest of the year. We beat SMU. And I mean, he got these guys to believe in themselves. They were fired up. They kept winning games. They got to that Tennessee game, and of course that was the famous Sterner fumble.
Yeah, of course.
That Sterner still has to live that down. But they were that close to playing in the championship game that first year. Nutt has taken Arkansas to 2 SEC championship games. They've only been to 3. Danny Ford the first one, Houston the other 2. And Houston, I'm trying to remember the year, but I think it was against Florida. So it would have had to be that good Razorback team.
The 2016 Reggie Fish punt there against the Tim Tebow team.
That's still the only time Arkansas was competitive in that game, and it could have gone either way, and Reggie Fish fumbled that punt inside the 5, and that decided it. So Houston has done a lot, and he had some 9-win seasons, some 10-win seasons. He still has the outside of Petrino, he's got the best record in the SEC, but his was for 10 years. Petrino was just for 4. So that's a better sampling. So, yeah, a fit is everything if you can do that. But are you going to find somebody that – does Wommack know that? Wommack know that? I don't know.
Another name that's popped up here moving on, and it's really more so like message board kind of fodder, Matt Campbell at Iowa State. A little disappointing this year. I want to say they're 7-4, maybe 6-5 heading in.
7-4 right now.
So heading into the final game of the season, they're 7-4. They play in the Big 12. Iowa State, not a power program, kind of struggle with some resources. He was in the Big 12 championship game 1 year ago. He was, 1 quarter away pretty much from being to the playoffs. It's a guy that's done a lot with not a whole lot. To me, it is a long shot. And I've also heard this about Matt Campbell. Fiercely, fiercely loyal. Other schools have apparently approached him, and he said, I will talk to you. You have to respect my time. You have to wait until the end of the season.
Right.
Schools nowadays don't want to hear that. So credit to Matt Campbell if that's true, if that's his hill to die on. Your thought on Matt Campbell, which again, it feels like a long shot.
Well, up until now, he's apparently just passed on opportunities. So there are a lot of people, including me, that can't figure out what's changed. Why is he looking around right now? And maybe he's not. But I watched a podcast with some Iowa State on-air people, and they acknowledged it's out there. Mm-hmm. They don't know if it's true. They had a hard time understanding it. And then I got sent a link to an online newspaper article that was written there in Iowa about the financial difficulties of the athletic department there. They've apparently for 2026, that would be next year, they were projected to have a $27 million deficit just for football. Or no, it may have been the entire athletic department. And they had to get that money from a foundation that generally gives its money to academics. And they were told, this is a one-time only gift for you. You're going to have to figure out something from here on out. And there were all kinds of implications that starting in 2027, you might have trouble meeting your rev share cap.
Yeah.
You might have trouble with a lot of things. So maybe he's looked at that and said, you know what, I better look around. As much as I like it here, we've got some issues. But he's not if he decides he wants to leave, I promise you, Arkansas is not the only school that would look at him.
Penn State apparently is very interested in talking to him.
Yeah,
and he's from that part of the country.
This guy he's like Wommack, but he's more established. He's been a head coach for 10 years.
And at a place that traditionally doesn't win.
He was at Toledo, and Toledo beat
Arkansas.
Brett Bielema in a Little Rock game that I well remember.
Good Arkansas team.
That was a good. That was the year they bounced back, did that under Henry Heave, beat Tennessee at Tennessee.
8 games, I believe it was.
Won 8 games that year. That was Brett Bielema's best team, and he beat them early in the year. Yeah. Matt Campbell did. So he's a really good coach. I'm not sure they can get him, and I may be wrong about that, but we'll see.
All right. So the internet undefeated at taking things out of context. So I don't want you to name any names here for the dozens and dozens of our fans out there that are going to be watching this. Do you feel like we've named somebody that will be the head coach yet? Again, I don't want you to name any names, but just play the game here.
I'm going to tell you, if you had to press me right now, I would say Wommack. And I don't know why I feel that way. I just do. And I may be wrong. He's somebody that's going to make a lot of these fans mad. What I will do as somebody that's job is to cover him is I'll do the job. I'll come in, I'll find out about him, I'll follow him as much as they let us do it. And it will still be a story, and then we'll all sit around and nothing will matter until they start playing games next fall.
A couple NFL names just to get to that have college connections. Cliff Kingsbury, who was a head coach at Texas Tech. Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator for Joe Burrow, and that epic LSU team that had Edwards-Helaire at running back, Burrow quarterback, Justin Jefferson. Who was the other? Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase on the outside. The team was loaded. Probably the greatest team of all time. Brian Daboll, the offensive coordinator at Alabama. I think he might have won a national title there as the offensive coordinator. I believe he coached Tua Tagovailoa whenever he was there at Alabama. Any of those guys you feel have a shot? They've dipped into the NFL waters before with Petrino?
Kingsbury was a name that I heard early on in the search.
He's been public in saying, I do not want a college job. But, people change.
Sure.
A bag of money will change people. It'll change Mike Irwin. It'll change myself.
That's right. So all I can tell you is he was a name that I heard, and I heard that there was a specific booster, and I'm not going to name him because there's no point in saying that when it might not be true, but there was a specific booster that was intrigued by him and said, let's go talk to him. I don't know if that happened. But this booster has some money, so maybe if they went in and said, "Hey, what if we give you $9 million? Would you come here?" Because I don't know what he makes as a coordinator for the Commanders, but I wouldn't believe it'd be anywhere near that kind of money.
Now, do you believe when they hire somebody, will the fan base accept it, or do you think there could be maybe not outrage, but I think a strong contingent that's disappointed?
I think unless you're hiring Nick Saban. I don't think you're going to have a consensus among the fan base. I think
Nick Saban or John Gruden?
Not Gruden. Gruden has support, but only among goofballs, people that don't understand sports.
And he's been undefeated largely for the last 12 out of 14 years because he hasn't been coaching 12 of the last 14 years.
If you want to do a show where he sits down with a quarterback and tells him what his problems are, that's a good thing. But I don't know about coaching a team.
All right, Mike Irwin, the Arkansas Coaching Search. Keep it tuned here to the Big Trail Nation.